Hello, AP Stats 2020-2021. Mr. Zamudio here, and I am very excited to start this lesson. I would obviously be much more excited if we were in the classroom and you guys were all there too, but it is what it is. We can still make this pretty fun. All right, so this first lesson is going to be very basic. I don't want you guys to start thinking, oh, stats is so easy, it's very easy. Because this first lesson and really this first unit, it is easy, and sometimes that can trick kids into thinking this course is going to be easy. Promise you it won't be. It's a challenge, not too difficult of a challenge, but you guys keep working hard, and I promise you that by the end of the semester you will know a lot more, end of the year, a lot more than you do now, and yeah, you'll be in a better spot to pass the test. So, enough rambling. Learning objectives for today. Identify variables in a set of data and classify types of variables. So, what the heck does this mean? Well, I'll tell you what it means. And before I do that, I should tell you also that the way we're going to be doing notes this year, you need to have a notebook that's specific for stats or paper. I suggest a notebook where you can copy all these notes down. We're going to do it pretty much college style, where you go to lecture, you take your notes, and then that's your resource to study. You're obviously going to have access to all these videos, but the brain remembers things better the more you see it and the more you write it. True story. So I highly suggest taking notes. Get paper and pencil out right now before we start. So with statistics, we are interested in looking at data collected for a specific population. So that's going to be our first key term there. The population, not how many people live in an area. Population is whatever it is that you're studying. So if I wanted to gather data on every musician right now, the population that's being studied would be all the musicians. If I'm gathering data on my family, my population would be my family. So population is the bigger thing that you're looking to study. Now, sometimes, most of the time with statistics, you can't actually gather data on every single member of your population. Not enough resources, or too many people, not enough time, whatever. So what do? You take something that's called a sample. And a sample is just a smaller piece of your population. All right? Sample, small piece of the population. And ideally, if you took a good sample, it would be pretty representative of your entire population. Now, types of variables we can talk about by, let's do an example. Let's say this example, I want to look at all high school students in the U.S. and their characteristics. So all high school students in the U.S. and their characteristics. If you haven't figured it out by now, my handwriting is atrocious. I'm very sensitive about it. Last year, my AP Stats kid made me cry about 8 times. So yes, it's awful. It's bad. I'm working on it, all right? Anyways, so in this example, we're looking at all high school students in the U.S. and their characteristics. So what can we talk about with high school students? Well, the population that we're looking at, that we would like to look at, is all high school students. Now, I can't go to every single high school kid in the country and ask them about their characteristics. That's not possible. It's not feasible. So what do? We take a sample. All right. Now, the sample, many different ways we can take a sample. To keep it simple for now, let's just say, hey, I'm going to interview my 2 AP Stats classes. I think there's about 40 of you, so we'll say 40 kids. 40, you're not kids anymore. 40 young adults. Some of you don't act like it, but you're almost adults. So, population that we're trying to study, all high school students. Our sample for this case would be the 40 young adults, you guys. Now, what do I want to find out about you? We said characteristics, right? Well, that really depends on what it is you're trying to study. But let's just say for this study, I'm trying to see everything about you guys. So here's a high schooler. A little lunchbox, backpack, Nikes. All right, little high schooler, and I want to know everything about this dude or dudette. Number of siblings. I want to know what sports they play. I want to know what clubs they're in. I want to know their GPA. I want to know their height. A bunch of different things that we can collect data on. All right? So, based on these 5 things I just mentioned, we can actually classify these 5 things into 2 groups. You know what? Let me give you one more. One more. So based on these 6 things, age, height, GPA, clubs, sports, number of siblings, see if you can figure out how we can break these up into 2 different groups. All right, so here's what you should know for today. The way we can break up these variables, these measurements of data, are into 2 groups. The first one we'll call categorical data. Derives from the word categories. And the other one is quantitative. Oh man, I can't spell. Quantitative data. Derives from the word quantity. Difference here. Quantities and quantitative data, something that you can measure in numbers, in units. Categorical data is more of categories. So, first example, let's do age. Age, when you talk about age, we know it's like, how old are you? Usually measured in years, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 numbers, right? It's something that we can measure quantitatively. So that would fall under a quantitative variable. It's something that we can put a number to. Number of siblings. Well, by definition says number, right? Something that we can count. That is also a quantitative variable. Sports. What sports do you like, or what sports are you in, right? So if we think about it, we have stuff like volleyball, we have soccer, we have track, stuff like that. Those aren't things that we can actually measure, right? There's no numbers that we can put to those, right? The question wasn't how many sports you're in. The question was what sports are you in, or what sports do you like? So that would be a category where you would respond with whatever sport you like. Similarly, clubs. What clubs are you in? That's not something we can measure. That's not quantitative data. That falls underneath categories. GPA. 0 to 4 scale, sometimes a little higher than 4. That's something that we can measure, right? It actually has a number. It's counted. So that would be quantitative. And lastly, height. That's something usually also measured here in the United States with feet and inches. So that is also quantitative. All right, just to give you an idea of the difference between categorical and quantitative, we had this little high school example. But at the end of the day, quantitative data you can measure with units. Categorical data you split up in categories. All right, and that hits our learning objectives. There's really only two types of variables within statistics, either categorical or quantitative, and we will be using those two terms pretty much the rest of the year. So get used to being able to identify them.